You're standing in a river valley in what's now Germany. 125,000 years ago, you've just brought down a deer. Most people would think the job is done. Kill the animal, eat the meat, move on. But the group you're with isn't done. Not even close. They're smashing the bones apart with stone hammers, cracking them into fragments, boiling the pieces for hours in a hollowed-out container over fire until something rises to the surface. Grease, pure fat, skimmed off the top like foam off soup. Why would anyone go through that much work for a bit of fat clinging to the inside of a bone? Because for a huge stretch of human history, fat wasn't a problem. It was the single most valuable substance on Earth. And understanding exactly why is the key to one of the strangest survival stories in our species' past. Here's something most people never learn in school. If you only eat lean meat, pure protein, no fat at all, you can eat until you're stuffed and still slowly starve to death. Early explorers who lived off wild rabbit meat alone, which is almost pure protein, discovered this the hard way. They called it rabbit starvation. Your liver can only process so much protein before it becomes toxic. Somewhere around 300 grams a day is the ceiling for an average-sized person. Push past it without fat or carbs to balance it out, and the body starts breaking down. Diarrhea, exhaustion, and if it goes on long enough, death, while your stomach is technically full. This is the exact wall that Neanderthals, and later our own ancestors, ran into constantly. Wild game, especially in winter, is lean. A starving deer or an aging elk has almost no fat left on its muscle. So the meat itself wasn't enough. It was never enough. The calories a hunting group desperately needed were hidden somewhere else entirely. Inside the bones, in the marrow, in the fatty tissue around organs, and behind the eyes. That's what archaeologists uncovered at a site called Neumark Nord. The remains of over 170 large animals, tens of thousands of bone fragments, all showing the exact same pattern. Smashed at the joints, broken precisely where the fat content was highest, boiled and skimmed. Researchers now call it a fat factory, and it's one of the earliest known examples of organized food processing in the human story. This wasn't a lucky accident. It was a system. A group of people who understood, without writing a single word of it down, that survival depended on hunting down every last calorie of fat their environment could offer. And this obsession with fat shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. Arctic hunters were documented deliberately targeting older male caribou and elk specifically because they carried thick slabs of back fat, sometimes 20 kilograms of it, while younger, leaner animals were passed over entirely. Hunters in the Australian outback would cut open a freshly killed kangaroo, check the fat content on the spot, and if it wasn't fatty enough, they'd leave the whole carcass behind and keep hunting. Meat alone wasn't worth the effort. Fat was the prize. So your body evolved around this constant, brutal math. If food was rare, unpredictable, and often too lean to survive on, then the humans who could grab fat when it appeared and hold onto it hard had a massive edge. A body that stored fat efficiently wasn't unhealthy. It was insurance. It meant surviving the week after the hunt failed. It meant a mother's body could still support a pregnancy through a lean season instead of shutting it down. Some of the oldest carved figures ever discovered, small statues over 30,000 years old, showing women with wide hips and soft, heavy bodies, may have been carved as symbols of exactly that. Not an ideal of beauty the way we'd think of it today, but a symbol of what kept a family line alive, enough stored fat to survive. Your body still runs on a hormone called leptin, which is supposed to signal your brain that you've stored enough fat and can stop being hungry. But for almost the entirety of human history, that switch rarely got tested. Because fat, this abundant, almost never showed up. The alarm for "you're starving," "find food now" got built strong, tested constantly, refined over hundreds of thousands of years. The brake for "you've had enough" barely got used at all. Every single one of these systems, the craving for fat, the hormone built to hoard it, the willingness to spend an entire afternoon smashing bones for a spoonful of grease, kept real people alive through real winters. It wasn't excess. It wasn't indulgence. Every calorie of stored fat on an ancient human's body was a small, quiet insurance policy against a world that could turn on you in a week, which is what makes today so strange. That same body, tuned by 100,000 winters to treat fat like treasure, is still inside you right now. Except the world around it changed almost overnight. The bones you'd have spent hours boiling for grease now sit unused, because fat and sugar are sold pre-packaged, ready in seconds, no hunt required. The ancient alarm still fires exactly the way it always did. It just has no idea the famine ended a long time ago. So the next time you feel pulled toward something fatty or sweet late at night, that's not a flaw in you. That's 100,000 years of Neanderthals and hunter-gatherers still running the exact same program that once kept entire bloodlines from disappearing. It worked perfectly for almost the whole of human history. It just was never built for a world where the fat factory never closes.